It's been a long journey. We have been preparing for a long time.
It's going to be tough, but I think it's startable.
Worlds 2021, living legend, clash at last.
Nobody's harder than me, I'm a breaker of chains, I'm living it free.
That's looking disastrous for Team Liquid.
We played really bad today.
LNG inside the base, baby!
好像是我们厄斐琉斯就是对面拿先锋的时候，然后我们厄斐琉斯在点对面下一塔的时候，感觉游戏就已经差不多结束了。
Icon redemption game!
We expect a lot from ourselves because we really wanna represent Europe in a good way.
Yo-Yo gets another good ult. This game is over.
Luckily, Genji lost, so every team has a 1-1.
This group is shaping up to be a very competitive one. Fake is down. This EDG just feels different.
我觉得战胜 T1 对我来说感受非常好，因为这是我好像第一次打 LCK 的队伍，然后感觉赢了就感觉很开心。
Can't quite catch up. Flandre manages to flash and escape unkilled here at Worlds.
역시 중국 우승팀답게 좀 잘하는 것 같았고.
You can't afford to underestimate them, and they're definitely a strong contender in this tournament.
T1 didn't look too strong today, but I still think they're a really good team, and I hope that we can beat them.
Commanding win as they face T1, and it is going to be a huge matchup. Damwon still undefeated.
솔직히 펌플러스 말고는 다른 팀들은 크게 경계가 되지는 않는 것 같아요.
They got PX! They overstayed! They overfought! They thought they had a Baron, but they got nothing!
경기를 이기긴 했지만 좀 많이 아쉬움이 남고.
Every single thing that Fnatic has thrown at them, RNG has immediately shut down.
就是想对他们打野说，不要再来入侵我的野区了吧。
RNG will clean ace Fnatic in their base.
Like, it's been 2 games now, and I don't know. Nothing good can happen, I feel like, and it's really hard.
PSG will secure themselves the Baron. Just excellent execution.
我下一场对上粉 AT， 就他们的上路是这一季的单杀网嘛，所以我会非常小心在对线上。
Top teams have weaknesses. They show flaws.
다음번에는 더 보강하면은 충분히 이길 수 있다는 생각이 들었습니다.
People will doubt about us, but we can bounce back.
It all leads to this. Make or break.
Vitality will take them!
A new era is waiting. Make it yours.
Welcome back, everyone, to Worlds 2021 taking place in Reykjavik, Iceland. We are approaching the midway point of the group stage, and as the finish line grows ever closer, the stakes continue to rise. Here we can see Hanwha Life and RNG entering the arena ahead of their match today. Both teams still fighting for their spot in the next stage and the title of World Champion. I'm Shox, and I'm joined on the analyst desk by Kadril and by Emily. It is also Emily's last day with us here on the analyst desk in Berlin. So we're sad, but you know, we're happy because we're going to make it an amazing day, right?
Yeah, this is going to be great. This is the first time being with Kadril on desk. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. We're going to end it with a bang, I promise.
yeah, I know. I've seen what you guys have prepared in terms of segments, and it's going to be lit. But let's first take a look at our groups here at the top of the day. We've got Damwon Kia, EDG, and RNG all remaining undefeated so far. And I think that was what many people had expected, perhaps, for those 3 teams. But Group D, everything is up in the air.
Yeah, it really is, because you've got Mad who beat against Genji, Genji beat LNG, LNG beat TL, and TL beat Mad. So everyone beat everyone.
Circle of Suck.
The Circle of Suck, right? The 3 groups of Group A, B, and C, they have clear favorites, 2-0. Clear teams that need to step up, 0-2. But that team, it's anyone's, that group's anyone's team.
Well, this is kind of what we expected, right? Because when we were going through the groups initially, Group D was the group that most people did point out as like, okay, we're actually not really sure what is going to happen in this group and how these teams are going to match up. And, you know, no surprise, it's been the closest.
Yeah, it's not changed. Still, anyone can get out of that group. Is it fair to say that when we look at the other groups, even though we have a clear designated favorite, it seems like the underdog runs are possible? I'm thinking about how C9 got so close yesterday to winning as well as Rogue in that hard-fought match versus Damwon. So I think there's possibility, but you still have to make it work on the world stage.
Yeah, Group A, like you said, is the spiciest to me, because just like you talked about, Rogue, we're doing well against Damwon. C9 was doing well against FPX, even though expectations, those teams were already counted out and they're just fighting off against each other. So there's a lot of close games. It's best of one at the end of the day, right? You can come up with anything, surprise with anything, and that can get you a win in the group stage.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me, and the thing that a lot of people have said behind the scenes looking at teams from scrims, is it's really going to depend on how these teams match up against each other. So not only how they adapt to the meta, but also whose playstyle is going up against another team's playstyle and how that shakes out, which makes for a really interesting and honestly volatile tournament.
Yeah, when we look at it, you know, the teams still have 4 games to go. Anything really is still possible, especially if you, even if you're down 2 games.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced Worlds as well, right? There's only 1 day off in between best of round robins, right? Normally you had a couple days to prepare things, but these teams need to be quick on the move, right? If you're a top side team and you're struggling on bot side and you're realizing now Yumi's OP and Lucian Nami are conquering lanes, now maybe you need to start transitioning and kind of filing the resource out a little bit differently, or vice versa on the top side where we've seen teams take over with the Graves top.
Definitely. We're seeing that, you know, what has come out in scrims may not necessarily work for everyone on stage, or they're caught off guard by a Yumi and a Graves.
Yeah, I mean, I think Graves is definitely the pick. I'm glad you pointed out, because Graves is the pick that I'm looking at as something that's kind of quietly overpowered. I think Graves is incredibly strong right now. He's one of the best top lane picks. And I'm really curious to see if teams continue to jump on that train.
We'll see. And speaking of a wide open meta, yesterday PSG Talent showed off a triple TP comp to take down Hanwha Life. And Emily is going to walk us through why it was so effective in this edition of Neighborhood Tactics presented by State Farm.
Hello again. So this is a composition that I absolutely loved from PSG Talent. They're using a triple teleport with an incredibly mobile composition, especially with the Talon, which means that they don't necessarily have to take flash because they can still collapse on people. And the triple TP allows them to cover up some of their weaknesses that they may have shown in the PCS when it came to playing to side lanes. So basically, the setup here is that Chovy's going to try to shove this wave in. And we have TP wards here and here. And the most important thing is that he feels really safe because of this vision line that's right here. The wave's pushing in here, and they also have vision here. So now, clear that out. Chovy is going to come, and they've actually been setting this up so that he can come push in. Maple is going to match, and we see right away the ease with which PSG can immediately collapse on whoever their split pusher is going to be. In this case, it is Chovy. This happens multiple times throughout the game, and I really absolutely love this. Is going to be another one where an entire team fight comes in. You can really see the power of, we've talked about Yumi, right, and her play bot side, but paired with a jungler like the Talon with such a mobile composition like this, it allows them not only, the triple TP allows them to collapse, but then the mobility of this comp and their ability to collapse while Jhin is firing across the entire team is nuts. This was Unified's first pop-off, but then after this, he was just firing from range and no one could get on him. So I absolutely loved this look from PSG, and once again, I thought it addressed something that they had trouble with in the PCS, which was matching side lane pressure. So I don't know, I know this is something that you had touched upon, Kedrol, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the TP dynamic is so interesting to me because you can do like an early play top side, get your top laner TP advantage, and then use that for a bot play as an example, right? Or you can do things like Team Liquid were doing yesterday up against global compositions where you put both your solo laners together to cover that off, right? You know, if you had Morgan coming behind Chovy there and they were pushing that bot tower, if you TP, your top laner's already there, right? So covering those kind of bases, but then running triple teleport on the top side, you can play anywhere on the map.
Oh, absolutely. But we can't forget that you also have to have the presence of mind to press it on time, right? Because otherwise you're still going to be late on the play. And I think PSG showed us that they know how to play with these 3 teleports, and that's why they were able to be ahead of the play oftentimes. We will see rather how the meta will evolve. There will be another 8 games today, and PSG Talon will be up against Fnatic in Game 4. Our first matchup will be Hanwha Life versus RNG. But again, you know, it's the last day of the first round robin. So this is the first or the last game, basically, that the teams are going to play versus a team they haven't played yet. Then they'll play them all again.
Yeah, this will basically shape up the groups, especially Group D, because now you'll know who the real victors are, right? If Mad come out on top, they'll be 2-1. You know, if Team Liquid come out on top or Gen.G, they'll be 2-1, and we'll know kind of where the teams are sitting. But again, it's going to be a very fast-paced Worlds. Coming into the second round robin, teams will be very quick to adapt, especially on these picks like Emily was talking about, Graves and Yumi, Jarvan jungles. A lot of teams are still slowly realizing what works on stage and what doesn't.
Yeah, and I think the amount of time, like how little time these teams have in between the first and second round robin also makes these games today particularly important.
That it does. And our last game of the day will be the arena where the new god of North America takes on one of the biggest names in league history as Abbedagge tests his mettle against FLICKR in our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, 100 Thieves versus T1.
On day 3 of the World's group stage, we get a matchup we've been waiting for since the legend of FLICKR was born in the LEC.
Is limit by Abbedagge.
FLICKR. It's a nickname that comes with a lot of responsibility, but this year, Abbedagge and the 100 Thieves have earned their showdown with the GOAT himself.
Unipod going down, that's the reset. Prophet, you see, he gets this one as well, so it is a repeat closer.
Oh. But to make it to the quarterfinals, the first seed from the LCS need to go through the ultimate raid boss, the Titans of Korea, led by the best player to ever load onto the Rift.
It's coming out, and now T1 are looking to the fight on the bottom side. JJ down, Counter Calls coming out, Scout diving under your tower, but he almost falls as well.
It is the classic clash between the veteran and upstart. Who will come out on top? Find out as 100 Thieves and Abbedagge challenge FLICKR's T1.
What an exciting last game of the day. It's like in approximately 10 hours, so don't worry. We will warm you up for it again when we get there. But it is a pretty hype featured matchup. We've got Abbedagge versus FLICKR. And if you've been following the LCS or the LEC before that, we used to dub Abbedagge, or we still do, FLICKR. And it's really cool to see him on the world stage because, Cadwell, we remember him from being a scrim god for the longest time in EU. And then it finally happened on stage.
Yeah, I've played against this guy for many years. I've been casting him now for a year. And initially when he joined Schalke, he was really not the greatest on stage, but in scrims he was really hard to play against. But that transition to scrim god, which became rumors, and everyone kind of knew that Abbedagge had some kind of skill. And then in the Miracle Run, he carried Schalke alongside a few other members to get the Miracle Run going. And then this year, specifically in spring, finishing 4th place with that team, especially with Gilius alongside him and the whole Schalke roster, they left and went to, well, Abbedagge left, went to 100 Thieves. And summer, Schalke's whole split kind of fell apart, so you could see the impact he had, and then he became the NA champion.
Yeah, and then while on 100 Thieves, I think the biggest thing to point out is his relationship with Closer, right? Because they're a phenomenal duo, and one of the things that's really allowed Closer to take over games as this incredible carry jungler is the fact that Abbedagge is so stable and plays for him so well. And it's been like a great addition to what was already like a really strong team dynamic.
And you've seen that dynamic between the mid and jungle really evolve throughout this year. And I think we can say the same on the other side. FLICKR with yet another jungler now under his wing in Owner. What is that going to look like?
I mean, how many junglers has FLICKR like helped raise at this point? Like the main one I keep going back to is Blank, but then Wonder is the latest kind of young jungler that's really popping off a lot of the time because of the coverage and just because of what a great player FLICKR is. I don't want to take anything from Owner because he is like incredibly strong mechanically, and I think he's only going to continue to improve with experience. But having such a force in the mid lane for him is obviously, you know, a great mid jungle duo.
Yeah, the interesting thing, all the junglers this tournament feel like they're very young and they're very hungry and they want to play these assassin-style champions in the current meta. And I think that mid laners need to facilitate that, right? When you're playing Talon jungle, Kiana jungle, you really need resources in a sense. So playing through your lanes and for your lanes, they'll always give you the buddy system back, right? If I push out mid with you, you come top with me and we'll dive. Or if I take your mid wave, you can take my Raptors, right? Especially in such a carry jungle meta, Owner to me stands out because he is the highest elo player in the tracking kind of pros of the bootcamp in Europe right now. I think he's very close to rank 1 on the entire server.
That's crazy, actually. Just a grind that some of these players have gone through, not a worrying trend. In fact, the opposite. And for T1, it's going to be, you know, a big match as well as for 100 Thieves because, as we said, the end of the round robin. And for T1, there maybe are a few doubts here and there. Before we get to that last matchup of the day, though, we have to talk about the first, of course, Hanwha Life Esports, who pushed through the play-ins and now stand with a 1-1 record so far as they dive into their first matchup versus RNG. And yeah, let's take a bit of a stock about what Hanwha Life has done and shown. As said, they had to go through the play-ins. Now they are at 1-1. Where do we land so far, Cadrel?
Well, Hanwha Life, if you think of their team, you think of Chovy Life Esports, but there's two specific players around Chovy which I think do facilitate this team to carry. One is definitely Willer in the jungle. Nothing really happens on the map if Willer's not actually enabling his team. Again, 18-year-old jungler, very hungry, very willing to prove himself. To me, he's the standout jungler in the tournament itself. You can see on the screen behind us, KP of 91%. So just goes to show that he's kind of sacrificing himself a little bit to get the team rolling. I think up against Wei, he's gonna have a tough task though.
Yeah, I mean, the player I would also point out is Willer, because I think one of their weaknesses, even in qualifying, was that it didn't always seem like he was communicating really well with the team. But throughout this tournament, like from play-ins on, even yesterday in the loss, it felt like he's communicating with his lane so much better. And that's such an improvement for Hanwha Life, because that was their greatest weakness, in my opinion, was their jungle to lane communication.
And also when you get to the world stage, I think you you don't really know what a new player is going to show, right, and how they're going to evolve. So this initial hopeful signs out of the jungle for Hanwha Life, I think spells out that they have a lot of room to improve even in this group stage.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then on top of the mid jungle, I just wanted to point out Deft, who I think is almost like the unsung hero of this team, because all of the popularity, all of the plays, all of the good stuff comes from Chovy in a way. But Deft's kind of doing his job, and he's doing the best he can in the role he's playing, right? He's an AD carry. It's the least impact role in competitive play sometimes, unless you can get to 30-40 minutes. And Deft was the man in EDG when they won the MSI 2015, 6 years ago. This is a stable player who's played in the LPL, the LCK. He's been to the top, he's been to the bottom, and he's such a person that you can rely on in a world championship like this.
But let's think about yesterday and how frustrated he must have been. He didn't even cash in on the Draven.
Yeah, 3-2 on Draven. He had all the items, you know. HLE was kind of ahead in that game, you know, but they just kind of dropped the ball. Biggest thing for HLE in that game, don't put a zero on side lane.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the triple TP collapse, and I don't think RNG will necessarily pull that out, but I do think this is a team that you know, plays really well to side lanes.
Yeah, but thinking about don't put the Azir on side lane, they're likely going to have to put someone or do something for those side lanes and wave control, because they're up against RNG here, and we know how they like to play, right? Heavily towards that top lane. Make sure that Xiaohu can really do what he wants on the map, but also be instrumental in team fights.
But this is the thing with RNG. This was against PSG. They are so far ahead in the game. What do? They overforce bot. Look at mid wave. There's no push in mid. No one's pushed mid. No one has to respond to mid wave. No one has to respond to top wave. What you're essentially doing here at around 17 to 18 minutes in the game is you're sieging a bot tier 2, which is almost impossible with the comp that they had, and they overforce and die. And then what happens? Well, now they're playing bot side, and they lose a Baron. So this is a very common thing that RNG actually does. If you watch their playoffs run against LNG, which was kind of so short-lived because they just got knocked out straight away, they lost 3-1, but every single one of those games, RNG was ahead. And if you go back and watch those games, the same thing always happens. They're ahead, they dive. They don't push mid-wave, they dive. Numbers matched, they lose the fight on the dive, and then they throw the game. That's what happened against LNG, that's what happened against PSG, and I think that RNG will win Worlds if they can just fix this small issue.
Emily?
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, so I want to go back to their MSI performance as well, and something that categorized them in LPL Summer, is that I do think that when RNG have really strong communication, especially with kind of Xiaohu leading the charge. He can get leads in that top side. When they do cross-map trade, they're typically very smart about it. So if they can shore up the weaknesses that you pointed out, I do think that kind of split-second decision-making, even if they do kind of dig themselves into a hole like that, they are able to take a step back, think about it clearly, and this is, in my opinion, what characterized their MSI run so well.
Yeah, and I think that if you actually watch their series against WE in the regional finals, they put a band-aid on that problem.
Yeah.
We talked about mid-wave not being pushed, and then you're diving 5v5. What was Gala playing all 3 games in that trio? Ziggs. One shots the wave, runs the side, everyone has to match. Just felt like Ziggs was a huge band-aid for them to actually win games and fix that issue. It's not going to work forever if people start to ban it or you start picking it, of course, but it's a very easy, simple problem to fix, I think, when you have work and time to be able to
and we're seeing a common denominator in some of the group stage, like some picks being used or the TPs being used to kind of band-aid a situation, and so you can work on it in the long term.
Yeah.
We talked about how there is a strong bot side also for the side of Hanwha Life, and yesterday we did see the Draven coming out. What's our expectation in terms of Yuumi probabilities, Enchanter probabilities in general, and if they're going to go ham in that bot lane, or is it going to be stabilized like we see so many times from RNG?
Yeah, I'm really wondering what RNG are going to do to contest bot 2v2, because in my opinion, yes, they have a strong 2v2, but I think they're much better when Ming can make plays on the map. So I would like to still see them go for a strong engage support from Ming so he can help out the rest of them.
Yes, please, a strong engage support. Do you hear us over there in Iceland? That would be so much fun, but we'll see if Hanwha can hold their own against RNG as we join our casters in Korea for the call.